What's going on, y'all? Me and Deryk Moates here. I'm going to discuss, what should happen before and after a recording session. Just getting prepared for a studio session because I get so many artists that I go in the studio with that just aren't prepared. Um, would you say you get more people that are prepared or are not prepared with people that you deal with?
Um, Probably about half and half. Um, the I don't know, yeah, probably about half and half. It varies.
How happy are you when you see a client come in with a hard drive or a flash drive?
Oh yeah, yeah. So they're not gonna be asking for a CD at the end or something.
Thanks. I haven't used CDs in a while, but that used to kill me when you get the recording and it's four people in the group. Everybody wants a CD, but they don't have their own CDs.
Yeah. Nobody has a thumb drive or nothing.
Let's wait, getting a little bit ahead of ourselves there, but good. Tell me, what do you do? What is your process as an engineer to get ready for a session?
Well, if it's like a recording session, I'd say you definitely have to assess the situation of what you're gonna be doing, obviously. Know what equipment you need, get it prepared. Um, Make sure you have the sufficient space and everything to get the job done and all of that. Research, listen to what they've done in the past and research their sound and try to figure out what they're gonna want before they even ask for it. Um, that's what I like to do.
Yes, to me, one of the things I always make sure I do is I call the studio and find out what version of Pro Tools they're running. If it's a studio I've never been to before, 'cause it's the first thing about booking a session. You got to find out the studio, find out what you're going to be doing, and then like you said, find a space that's going to accommodate that. And if it's a studio I haven't been in before, it's very important to find out what version of Pro Tools they're running because if you've got version 9 and you get to the studio and they got version 10, or you got 10 and they got 11, you're in some trouble.
Yeah. Or if they have an older version, especially, and you have some type of session you want to load and you ain't gonna be able to do it.
Right. Another thing, I get, I have the artist send me the beat, send me the tempo, go ahead and create a session. So that way, when I get to the studio, all I have to do is open up a session rather than create a session. Get to
Mhm.
the studio. If the artist has a rough copy of the song, I have them send that over so I can have an idea of what I'm going to be recording. If it's a band, I find out what instruments we're going to be recording. That way, I already have an idea of what I'm going to mic everything with before we get started. Because one of my big things is there should be no surprises in the studio. Uh,
Yeah.
there should be no surprises, as in, oh, we've got a third guitar player. Yeah, I forgot to tell you that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should be. I always tell artists that when you go to the studio, you should just be doing the song again. There should be no surprises. There should be nothing happening for the first time.
Yeah.
It's okay to maybe try stuff out here and there, but for the most part, nothing should be done uh, the first time. It
Yeah.
kills me when an artist comes in. Let's say it's a three-man rap group. They come in the studio, and the first thing they say is, "Who's gonna go first?"
Yeah.
You just you're not prepared. When you go to the studio, you should just be doing. the song again, which also brings to a point that I think everyone should have some kind of recording set up. Now I'm talking about artists here. Should have some kind of recording set up at home. I don't care if it's even the internal microphone on a laptop. Not going for quality, just you want to get a rough copy of the song down so you can hear what it sounds like, because I can't tell you how many times I've been in the studio with an artist. We record the song, and then they sit in the control room and listen to the song, and they're like, I'm just not feeling this.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
kind of late for that.
yeah, you have to be well prepared. Like, unless you're going into the studio, like, okay, we're creating, that's a different thing. But if you're going in to track and record a song, like, you should have that song down to where, because if not, it doesn't come out believable.
Right, right.
If you're still, like, reading the words like word for word. Some people like to refer to the words, whatever. But if you're reading it word for word, you still don't even know it. That's not a good thing. Like, that people can tell sometimes, or some people may be better at it, but it's still not as believable. It's just, yeah.
And let's talk about the artist side of getting prepared. Which I already mentioned things. Have the song down, know the song. Um, bring your own flash drive, hard drive, media. I just don't rely on someone else to do it for you. Um, bring refreshments. I've had someone leave in the middle of a session to run to the store to get something to drink, and I'm like, that's cool, but as long as you know you're on the clock, like it's not gonna
Yeah.
cause go get a Coke. Make sure you handle that. And I always tell artists to book extra time, or the engineer book extra time, because someone calls you and tells you they just need 3 hours. You better call the studio and book 4,
Yeah.
or maybe even 5, because very little people finish in the time that they say they're going to, unless they're more experienced and they know. But a lot of
Yeah.
artists starting out, yeah, they say I need 3 hours. I say okay. I call the studio. Yeah, let me get 5 hours.
Yep. Time flies in the studio. 10 hours can fly by.
So,
But like on the mixing side of it,
mhm.
there's some like there's a couple things that really bug me about some things that, like, have everything labeled and organized in your sessions. Like, it doesn't, you already know what's going on as the artist, like, as far as their demo or their project that they need mixed. They already know what's going. I get so many projects where it's like, audio 1 through audio 45. That's like the names of the tracks.
Yeah, I
And
send those back.
yeah, it's like, dude, like, you realize I have to take like 30 to 40 minutes just going through this just to label everything before we even start mixing.
Yeah, I send those back. I
Sitting
say either
there.
you can pay me extra to label this, or you can label it yourself and send it back.
Yeah, like, organize the stuff, label it. At least that. You don't even have to. I can color everything, but
Right. Um, Tell me about your worst prepared client. Just give me a story.
well, there was a time. Well, my work. I didn't have nothing super bad ever happen. Just only, people being not really prepared, not very prepared, and then bringing people, like you said. surprise, I got two friends with me that, that are suddenly collaborating on this, and they have no idea what they're doing, and it turns into a big deal, and or the people that have the big entourage that surprise shows up with
I've had somebody bring a newborn in the studio before. True story.
Wow.
But I'll give you mine. We get in the studio. My cousin had someone that he wanted to track, and he wanted me to engineer it. Okay, cool. I booked the time, lug all my equipment down to the studio, get set up, ready to go. Guy comes in the studio, and the first thing he says is, "Anybody got a beat?" So the booth was, of course, booth is, away from the control room. So I go towards the booth and I tell my cousin, like, come help me adjust this mic real quick. Code word for, let me holler at you real quick, cause we got a problem.
Yeah.
No, that was probably worse. That one killed me. Like, you came to the studio and you don't even have a beat. No.
Better start beatboxing or something.
I'll tell you,
And let me guess, you wanted one for free.
I can't even remember what happened because I zoned out after that because I was like, okay. I'll tell you, my first, if y'all go on CD Baby, look up Nero Black Sheep. That was the first album I produced. I did all the tracks on that album, and I did all the tracks except for the intro. But just to give you an idea of how prepared we were when we were recording that album, I wasn't engineering back then. I was just producing, and we did that whole album in maybe 16 hours. It really wasn't a lot, and I had a Roland VS880 that we did the rough copies of the song on, and I mean, in the studio, I knew everything that was going to happen before it happened. So I just stood next to the engineer and I was like, he's about to do the verse, he's about to do the hook, he's about to ad-lib this, he's about to put an intro on this, he's about to do a 16-bar verse, but he's going to do it 8 and 8. And that just, and really without even knowing it, that was just the way I was working then. And looking back on it, it was so efficient that there wasn't a lot of back and forth between me and the artist because I knew what was about to happen. He knew what was about to happen. I just had to tell the engineer, hey, do this, do that. He's about to start here. We're going to have to break this verse up, just, whatever. And we got through just so quickly. One song, we did the whole song in 20 minutes, which is pretty pretty crazy. And that's not 20 minutes of perfect takes. I mean, there was some mistakes in there, but just the fact that we kept rolling and knew what was going to happen before it happened just made the recording of that album go so easily.
Yeah.
So that's just an example of how recording the song before you go to the studio can help you and just makes so much sense.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if you ever seen PreSonus did a live stream about a year or two ago from a studio in New Orleans somewhere, I think, some Baton Rouge maybe. I think it was called Swamp Grease or something, the band. But did you ever do you remember that, or did you ever see it, or no?
I didn't see it. I think I remember seeing advertisement for it.
Yeah, they showed them, basically it was like an all-day thing, it streamed for like 8, 9 hours for about 2 days. and they recorded that entire album in 2 days. You know, just going, they did like 6, 7 songs the one day, 6, 7 songs the next day. And that thing sounds incredible. Those guys were so good.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And yeah, that album sounds real. Like if you listen to it now, like you would never think that it was recorded in 2 days, like completely. And almost mixed too. And it was probably mixed in 3, 4 days. It's crazy.
That is crazy. Um, let's talk about your most well prepared client. You have anyone who just blew you away with how prepared they were?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Like basically just I don't know if anybody, one person that really like blew me away, but the best people I like to work with is the people that's, like we said, well prepared, know what they're trying to do, um, at least, or have an idea of what they're trying to do, like artistically, and what type of sound they're going for, and just well prepared all around, I guess. Like you said, have the hard drive with you, something, some type of media, have good etiquette, be respectful of the studio, just follow the rules. Don't bring a lot of people, even if it's, they say it's cool. I just, why have 4 extra people with you just sitting around? It usually doesn't help. Do you think in those cases?
Definitely not. I mean, I've had people bring people who were quiet, and I've had people bring people who were loud. But if they, I generally don't like. Some rooms I book, there's not that much seating space in there anyway. So I like those rooms because that means you can't bring a lot of people in anyway because there's not room for them. But
Yeah.
generally, I feel like if they don't have anything to do with the song,
Yeah.
then there's no reason for them to be. Now,
Yeah.
if they're there to give feedback. Um, that's different. Um, but just if you bring anyone to the studio, they should serve a purpose. Or if you bring someone to the studio that does have nothing to do with the song, they're just there as, I guess we'll call it, support. They should know their place, as in, just sit back and chill.
Yeah. And some people do that, and it's not, doesn't bother me, but does it help? No. But then you'll definitely have those guys that come in and it's like a party or something, and they're
Yeah.
walking around on their cell phone. Yeah, I'm at the studio.
Right.
Da.
And I guess to give everybody a tip, this is what I do for those people that are loud in the studio, because
They're taking selfies by the board and
this is what I do for the people that are so loud that I can't hear the artist through the speakers. Usually, what'll happen is the artist will go through a take, and they say, "How was that?" And I'll tell them, "I don't know. I can't hear you because your friends are talking." So then finally, after doing that a couple times, how was that take? I don't know. I can't really hear you. Boys back here, they're too loud. I can't really hear you. But finally, after doing that enough times, they'll come out and tell them to shut up. Because it's not your place as an engineer to tell them to be quiet. That's that's
Yeah.
that's the artist's responsibility.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give you I'm gonna give you my best prepared client. It's a woman named Diane Betts. Actually, this wasn't a recording session, but this was a mixing. I mixed a song for her, and she gave me a hard drive with the song. She gave me the lyrics to the song. I got a rough mix, of course. She even gave me a short story about what the song was about.
Wow.
I mean, yeah. She man, everything I needed for that song, I had it. I mean, she even gave it to me in a little I don't know what it's called, portfolio.
Binder.
Yeah, something like that. Like, I mean, it was very well prepared, and I was just like, wow.
That's cool.
And then
That's funny. I ain't never seen nothing like that.
and she even offered to give me she offered to give me a she gave me a stack. She offered to give me a stack of CDs, and I was like, psh, I don't need CDs. I'm sure I got some at the house. I'm sure. I was like, you sure? You sure? I was like, yeah, I don't need those. But she wanted everything on CD, so there was no every mix I did emailing that to her. She wanted the mix on CD. So
Hmm.
with that being said, I should have took the stack of CDs. Because I would every mixed version I would do, I would take it and yeah, I'd mix it here and then I would take it down to the studio and leave it for her and she would come pick it up. But yeah, I should have took those CDs. Now let's get into let's see. So by now we've all heard the story of Jay-Z being extorted for masters. If you haven't heard the story, basically Jay-Z's engineer between I think it was '98 and 2004 or something like that um, had masters for the albums they recorded between that time, and basically told Jay-Z's people he wanted 100,000 for the storage fees. Um, this brings me into what should happen at the end of a session. Um, Not saying that anybody did anything wrong here, but it's just this story to me is just kind of a reminder of why the artist should leave the studio with their session files. Always have the engineer give you their session files. Don't leave it at the studio because the studio's not going to keep it. I can guarantee you that. And the engineer, depending on how closely you're going to work with that engineer, if this is just a one-time thing, um, even if it is a one-time thing, definitely take your session files. But if that's the engineer that's going to mix it, they need to take a copy of the session files too. I don't know how this, how this engineer ended up with the masters for it. I guess obviously Jay-Z's people at the time um, trusted him with it. I don't know why it hasn't gotten back in Jay-Z hands, but yeah, this is a crazy story because he wanted 100,000 for it, then they settled on 75,000. They said the masters were worth millions, um, and the police showed up instead of Jay-Z's people and took the masters. Um, and the police are holding it until they figure out who owns the masters, which is obviously the label. The engineer doesn't own it, but I don't know. It was just a weird story. They say it's extortion, but I don't know if I would call something worth millions and asking for 100,000 for it extortion.
Yeah, and he kind of made it sound like he just wanted basically reimbursed for the storage fee for over the 5 years or however long it's been for the storage fee.
Right. So
How
yeah,
he was trying to make it sound.
yeah, the masters were in storage, which I guess means that maybe they were done on analog tape. I guess that's the only thing I could really see seeing it being in storage. But like, and, we were talking about this before we started the hangout. If it was me, and I had the masters, I'm sending it back to the label, or I'm sending it back to was it back Rockefeller?
Yeah.
I'm sending it back to them because I'm not keeping up with that. That's not. I
Yeah.
don't see that as my responsibility. If the album is done, we're done mixing, mastering, everything is done. I don't need to keep those. I don't need to keep those files anymore. Uh,
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
right. Send
You
that back
don't
to the
own
label.
them.
Say again.
If you don't own them, you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't get it. Why didn't the label want to have those
I mean,
in their possession?
if anything, I would have dropped it at their front door. But I'm like, yeah, I don't. What am I? If the album's done, what am I going to do with this? You take the files back. This is your artist, your property. If we need to go back and edit, remix something, then you give me the files back. But yeah, I wouldn't. I'm not keeping up with that.
Maybe he thought, they were his at that point, basically. And why else would he be paying storage fees for that long? I don't know. It's weird.
It is a weird story. So yeah, bottom line, get your session files. 'Cause I have so many people that say, hey, um, can you make a clean version of this song? And I'm like, sure. Where's the session files? Oh, they're at the studio. They're not at the studio. I was like, I
Yeah.
can tell you that. If it's a home studio, the home studio, they may have them. But if it's a commercial studio, they're not keeping up with your files.
Oh, no.
That's
They may have some type of policy where they'll keep it for 2 weeks, for sure, and that's it, or something.
I've been in the studio that I think it's every night. It'll wipe the
Wow.
hard drive clean.
Wow.
or wipe sessions off of it, which is a good way to keep your sessions from filling up. Because once you leave the studio, they're not responsible for keeping your files. That's part of what you pay for in your session is the
Yeah.
session.
Yeah, that's what I always tell people. That's what you're paying for. Like, why did you leave without the session? Like, because, sometimes people will come to you with just a 2-track and want you to do something with it, and they don't have the session. And
Right,
it's,
exactly.
why would you leave the studio without the session? At least the stems or something. Like, I don't get that.
Everybody's so focused on leaving the studio with the rough mix of what you
Yeah,
did that day, which is cool, but the session files is
yeah.
way more important. And
You
I try.
know, it honestly, I blame that on the engineer, because when you think about it, the artist really isn't thinking about that in most cases. The engineer should be telling them, here's your session, you're gonna need this.
I
I
can see that,
Yeah.
but because I've gone to give people session files before, and they're like, "What do I need this for?" And I'm like, um, "What if you don't want me to mix this? You say you want me to mix this now, but you may decide that, hey, I'm not the right person for the job, and then you don't have your session files. So
Mhm.
that's what that's gonna come down to is you re-recording the song again because you don't have the session files."
Yeah.
But yeah, I can see I can see the engineer, being the one forcing the session files on them. I'll say,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it is still the artist's responsibility to make sure that they.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's still your responsibility to Make sure you leave with that. I mean, you wouldn't leave the store without your merchandise, so.
Exactly. That's the. I wrote a blog post about this either last year or a few years ago. That's the exact analogy I used, where you go to you go to the store and you buy a video game, but you leave the video game at the store and you just take the receipt,
Yeah.
and then your friend's like, "Hey, bring that game over, let's play." It's at the store.
Yeah.
But that
Pretty
is,
much.
yeah, you just that's so important to get the session files. Always, always, always. Um,
Do
now,
you do you usually do like a quick rough mix for them if you just track somebody or?
if I have time, I will. If I don't have time, because sometimes we work right up to the end of the clock, but um, if I have time, I'll go ahead and do it. If I don't have time, I just send them a rough mix when I get back home. It's usually not a big deal.
Yeah, Gennaro that's in the group,
Hmm.
Pensado's group, he was just telling me about how he was tracking a Trina record, and he was showing me how he'll have one track set up with his recording chain, and he'll just record tracks and then drag it and drop it up to other audio tracks, or he'll drag it and drop them up into a playlist. You know what I mean? Like instead of recording to separate tracks, he records onto just one track over and over again and drags it and drops it onto the track.
What,
Right.
what what is he benefiting from that?
I guess not having to set up uh and the way he explained it pretty well. I can't um
Sounds
he,
like extra work.
he said like he can keep his input monitoring. He had a few different reasons that it actually made sense. Um, yeah, I was checking it out, and he was it's just a couple of things, just preference things or whatever. I just thought it was pretty interesting. Um, he's saying like he drops them in the even sometimes into the playlist or in the separate, the playlist within a track. I don't know. It's pretty interesting.
I have to ask him about that because that sounds like extra work.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess, well, if you got like a certain chain set up on a track, maybe it's a CPU thing too.
Mm.
You got, certain things set up. Because I noticed they had like auto tune on. Yeah, they had like an auto tune they were tracking through or something.
Hmm.
Uh,
I have to ask him about that. You, anything else you can think of? I can say that should take place after the session ends. Besides
um,
getting the session files.
uh, make sure everything's, you know, labeled and organized. Like I was saying before you even give them the session file. Um, everything's well documented.
Now that brings me to one. Make sure uh, at the end of the session and you're done recording the song, take a listen through and make sure you're satisfied with everything because I get a lot of times, we'll record it. Uh, I'll ask the artist, "What do you think of that take?" They like it. They ask me, "What do I think about it?" Sounds fine to me. you get to mixing the song, and then they're like, I don't like the way I said this, or I think I should redo this line. Uh,
Oh yeah.
Not time for that in the mixing stage. So I think that's a good one. Make sure go through the song before you leave the studio. Go through the song. Make sure everything is to your liking as far as the vocals or instruments, whatever you're tracking.
Definitely.
So and that's all we got on that one. I guess it's been closing. I guess you can tell people where they can find you.
Deryk Moates Music at gmail.com. On Facebook in the Pensados group, as usual. And pretty much it right now.
Y'all know y'all can find me at audiozar.net, at audiozar901 on Twitter. And the Recording and Mix Engineers is my Google Plus community. So just want to do a quick hangout for y'all to just discussing, like I said, preparing for the studio, what's going on in the studio, which happened at the end of a studio session. Probably doing some more of these on some on interesting topics that we come up with. If y'all want to hear us discuss a topic, be sure to comment on the video once it goes up, and we'll see if we can get that done for y'all. But all right, we'll wrap this up, and I'll catch y'all next time.
Take it easy.